Waitress's heartwarming act of kindness revealed. 200 bikers unite for an incredible surprise. Lily's sun-kissed mornings at the Busy Bee Diner were nothing short of a miracle. Each day began with the sizzle of pancakes hitting the griddle and the rich aroma of coffee blooming in the air. A bustling small-town eatery, it was a place where stories unfolded, between the clinks of silverware and casual chit-chat over diner classics. For Lily, a single mother with a heart full of determination, these moments were bittersweet. With each plate served, she juggled her responsibilities as a caregiver for her ailing father, Roy, and the ever-precious role of mother to her bright-eyed daughter, Mia. Every morning, as she donned her slightly worn apron, she took a deep breath and reminded herself of the love that fueled her, not just for her family, but for every soul that walked through those doors. It was in this spirit she often slipped an extra slice of pie to the elderly man who sat alone, or an extra burger to the young couple struggling to scrape together change. Moments like these filled her heart with warmth, though they stretched her already fragile budget. The news of the Bikes for Hope charity event swept the town like wildfire. It promised to uplift families like hers, but came with an undercurrent of tension. Many scoffed, dismissing the less fortunate as undeserving. This divide only heightened Lily's resolve. She wanted more for Mia than the hardships she faced, yet with each passing day, it felt like climbing a mountain with grease on her hands. Then, one fateful afternoon, the roar of engines broke into her daily rhythm as a formidable line of motorcycles rolled up outside the diner. The local motorcycle club, known for their rebel spirit and unwavering loyalty, filled the diner with a booming energy that electrified the air. Curiosity turned to connection when bikers heard Lily's story. They saw her compassion shining brightly even in her struggle. Together, they concocted a plan, a parade of 200 bikers to rally the town behind her cause, a spectacle so grand it couldn't be ignored. Excitement gripped Lily's heart as the day approached, battling her fears about her father's declining health and bills piling up like dirty dishes. She couldn't help but dream. Maybe, just maybe, this event could shine a light on the best in her community. The morning of the parade dawned in a whirlwind of excitement. Families gathered, laughter filled the streets, and choirs of children rushed to catch glimpses of the approaching spectacle. Motorcycles roared to life, their engines celebrating a cause greater than individual struggles, a united front of support, hope, and camaraderie. But just as the celebration reached its peak, a misunderstanding spiraled between Lily and one of the bikers. Accusations flew, whispers spread like poisonous fog, and the very essence of community began to fracture. Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now, let's continue. Amid the swirling chaos, Lily felt her dreams without a safety net. As glasses shattered and emotions boiled over, she realized the very fabric of unity they sought to weave was threatening to tear apart. Yet, in that turmoil, a flicker of clarity began to emerge. Could this moment of division cultivate true understanding and healing? As the dust settled, one question lingered. Would Lily's strength be enough to mend the rifts, or would the misunderstanding solidify the walls that silence compassion? In a world desperately needing kindness, only time would reveal the possibilities hidden in the chaos. The tension clung to the air like a thick fog. Lily's heart raced as she watched the once supportive crowd shift. Confusion was etched on faces she had come to recognize. Disbelief spread among the bikers, their previously eager demeanor now clouded by anger. She could almost feel the heat of judgment simmering beneath their leather vests. In the midst of the ruckus, her mind struggled to keep up. How had such a hopeful event turned into this chaos? Papery sobs echoed, pulling her attention towards Mia. The little girl stood, clinging to the edge of her mother's apron, wide-eyed and fearful. Lily knelt down, taking Mia's small hands into hers, grounding them both in the moment. "Sweetheart, it's going to be okay," she whispered, though doubt wove through her words. The bikers were hashing it out louder now, voices layered with frustration. "This isn't what we came for," shouting one man, the tattoos winding around his arms only adding to his stark appearance. He was met with scowls from others, and Lily's heart sank deeper. She had envisioned this parade as a beacon of hope, a chance to bridge divides and unearth the goodness in everyone. Now all her dreams felt precarious, like a stack of dishes ready to tumble. Suddenly, Roy's gruff voice broke through the din, a reminder of the wisdom earned through struggle. "Enough," he called, gripping his cane tightly as he stood at the edge of the diner. His frail frame trembled, but his voice resonated with strength. "You're all here for a reason. It ain't just bikes and noise, it's about the people behind those handlebars." Such clarity cut through the despair like a knife. The crowd paused, faces shifting from anger to reflection. Lily could feel hope flicker to life within her, but it was only a flicker now. Would it catch fire? With renewed determination, she stood up, dusting her apron down to gather her thoughts. This parade wasn't just about, she began, her voice trembling yet firm. It was about all of us. We've all faced struggles, and we all want hope. But look where we are now. Yelling at each other isn't the way. Shifting her focus to the bikers, she continued, "You made this decision to ride for hope. You believed in something bigger than yourselves. Let's not lose that." The murmurs grew softer, eyes turning to the ground as they mulled over her words. Lily's heart ached with the weight of it all. Could she possibly be the beacon they needed, while she too stood on the edge of despair? Just then, a voice rang out from the back of the crowd. "She's right. We're not against each other." A familiar face stepped forward, one of the younger bikers who had shared his dreams of better days during a previous visit to the diner. "Let's turn this around. We can fix this." Encouragement rose slowly, like the sun breaking through a heavy cloud. Others rallied, energized by the spark of unity ignited in their hearts. Lily held her breath, a knot of hope and fear twisting in her chest. As the crowd began to murmur in agreement, a sense of connection blossomed in the air. Could they truly come together again, rising from the ashes of misunderstanding? The need for compassion surged between them, brighter than the roar of motorcycle engines. But before the rallying could solidify, a dark cloud loomed over the excitement. Lily's phone buzzed insistently in her apron pocket, jarring her back to reality. She rarely received calls during work, and a sense of dread washed over her. Who could it be? With her heart racing yet again, she reached into her pocket, feeling the cold metal against her fingers. Would she have to face another challenge just when it seemed they were finally coming together? As she answered the call, a voice from the other side sent chills down her spine. "Lily, it's about your father." And with that, the vibrant rally of support was suddenly overshadowed by an impending storm. Would Lily be able to hold on to what mattered as the tides of her life turn once more? Lily stood frozen, the world around her slipping away like sand through her fingers. The voice on the other end was familiar but heavy with something she couldn't bear to face. "Is he okay?" The words slipped out before she had a chance to think. Silence stretched, thick and unbearable. When the voice finally responded, it was steady but fraught with an undercurrent of urgency. "He had an accident, Lily. It's serious. You need to come home." Each word struck her like a blow, sharp and painful. Home. It was a word that had once stirred warmth within her, but now felt like a harsh reminder of everything she had tried to flee. All the reasons she had built up around her life in this diner flooded back. Memories wrapped in visits from her father, revealing laughter, joy, then tangled in painful silences during the hard years. Around her, the crowd began to murmur and shift, the earlier energy starting to wane.
The bikers, who just a moment before seemed ready to embrace a new beginning, now looked on at her, confused and uncertain. Taking a deep breath to steady herself, she addressed them. I need to go," she said, her voice cracking. "But don't give up on each other. You were finding something special here." Before she could dwell on her words, she turned and slipped away, each step heavier than the last. The chatter of the crowd faded into a distant hum, replaced by the relentless beating of her heart that seemed to echo her fears. What if she lost him? What if things were irreparable when she got back? The emptiness of the diner felt like a looming presence, the once welcoming space transforming into a hollow shell. She fumbled for her keys in her pocket, her hand trembling. She could hardly remember how to drive. But in that moment, a flurry of movement caught her eye. A group of bikers was breaking away from the crowd, their leather jackets glinting in the sunlight. Roy led the pack, cane in hand, but a fiery determination igniting his steps. "Lily!" he called after her, urgency coloring his voice. "Wait!" She paused, feeling the weight of every gaze upon her. They cared. They didn't know the full depth of her struggles, but they were willing to shoulder some of it. Just when despair threatened to consume her, she felt a warmth spread through her, like the first touch of spring after a harsh winter. "Here," Roy said as he reached her side, extending his hand. "We're with you. You don't have to face this alone." They placed a cluster of supportive hands on her shoulders, sturdy and reassuring. For the first time, she felt the strength of community, the power of shared burdens. The way they rallied around her ignited a flicker of hope amidst the storm she faced. Lily looked toward the crowd, now a mix of anxious bikers and teary-eyed supporters from the diner. "If anything happens to him," she began, her voice barely above a whisper, "I don't know what that will mean for me." "Then let's make sure nothing happens we can't handle together," one of the bikers said, stepping forward. The answer stirred something deep within her. Could they truly stand united against whatever came next? "Where are we headed?" one of them shouted, and her heart surged with determination. "Home," she replied, her voice growing louder with each word. "To my father." The crowd buzzed with energy again, the sound of revving engines filling the air as they shifted from despair to action. A wave of bikers began to form around her, a furious procession of support ready to escort her home. As she climbed onto the back of one bike, surrounded by a wall, a thought of camaraderie, a thought struck her. Would this journey mark a reunion or a reckoning? Just as they roared away, a new title echoed in her mind. Ride of Resilience, unveiling a daughter's journey. What awaited her at home, and could the bonds forged amongst the bikers reshape her future? The wind whipped through Lily's hair as the motorcycle surged down the open road. Each mile felt like a release, a slow unraveling of the tension that had built up inside her since the call. The rumble of the engines echoed the rhythm of her beating heart, strong and steady against the unrelenting worries that clung to her mind. With every bump in the road, she felt the support of the bikers surrounding her, their presence a constant reminder that she was not alone. Roy rode in front of her, leading the way with quiet determination. She could see the focus etched on his face, the way he surveyed the winding road ahead. It gave her a sense of purpose, and she wrapped her arms tightly around his waist, feeling the sturdy frame of his leather jacket beneath her fingertips. The landscape zipped by, a blur of colors and shapes, but within her, time felt painfully still. Memories of moments spent with her father flooded her mind. The laughter on fishing trips, the quiet talks over coffee in the early mornings, the moments when everything felt right in the world. As they approached the familiar town, her town, Lily's stomach twisted with anticipation and dread. What would she find? "Hey," came the voice of the biker beside her, breaking through her whirlwind of thoughts. "You good?" "Yeah," she responded, though her voice was barely a whisper. Deep down, she wasn't sure. She wanted to believe everything would be all right, but that hope stood on shaky ground. As they drew closer to home, the bikers began to spread out,
filling the streets, motorcycles glimmering in the afternoon sun. For a moment, the sight was impressive, a sea of leather and chrome merging with their small town's suburban charm. Lily's heart swelled at the display of unity. These strangers had become allies in her time of need. They pulled up outside the hospital, the towering building looming over them like an imposing fortress. Lily hesitated, her heart racing, as the gravity of the situation weighed heavily on her shoulders. She could feel the collective energy of the bikers behind her, their support unwavering. Roy shot her a reassuring look, letting her know it was time to be brave. "Let's go," he said, motioning for her to follow. With a deep breath, she stepped off the motorcycle and faced the entrance. The automatic doors slid open, revealing the stark interior filled with hustle and bustle. The sterile smell of antiseptic invaded her senses, and a wave of anxiety washed over her. What if the news wasn't good? "Remember," Roy said softly, standing beside her, "whatever happens in there, we've got your back." She nodded, grateful for his support.
Reassurance. As they entered, the sterile light of the waiting room appeared blinding, revealing tired faces and anxious whispers. The scene felt surreal, the atmosphere heavy with unspoken fears. A receptionist greeted them with a warm yet professional smile, her voice laced with concern. "Can I help you?" "I'm here to see my father, Jack Collins," Lily managed, her voice quivering. It felt odd to say his name aloud after so many years, but she couldn't shy away anymore. "Please have a seat," the receptionist said, pointing to the waiting area. "The doctor will be with you shortly." As they settled into the rows of plastic chairs, the room buzzed with anticipation. Lily clutched Roy's hand tightly, aware of the growing tension in her chest. Time stretched endlessly, but she wasn't alone. The warmth of the bikers filled the space, their presence a fortress protecting her while she waited for answers. A memory of laughter fluttered through her mind, and with it a determination to be strong and to face whatever awaited her. Then the door swung open, and a doctor stepped in, face serious yet compassionate. Lily's heart slipped into her throat as he looked at her, preparing to speak. "Ms." A deep breath escaped her, fearful of what was to come. There was no turning back now. The moment of truth had arrived, and she braced for what would become the next chapter of her life. Would she find healing in her father, or would this be the end of everything she'd ever known? The doctor's gaze held her captive. "Miss Collins, your father has had a stroke. He's stable now, but the next few days will be critical." The words hit her like a punch to the gut, and a whimper escaped. Stable? Critical? She felt every syllable reverberate in her chest, twisting her insides into knots. "Can I see him?" she managed to ask, panic creeping into her tone. "Of course," the doctor nodded, stepping aside for the nurse to guide them. "He's in room 203. I'll ask the nurse to keep an eye on him as you visit. Remember, he might not be able to communicate as he used to." "What does that mean? Will he—" Fear tangled with her speech, making it hard to breathe. "We'll know more tomorrow. Just take one step at a time." His voice, while soothing, didn't ease the barrage of thoughts racing through her mind. As they followed the nurse down the sterile hallway, the sounds of alarms and footsteps melded into a dissonant symphony. The walls felt like they were closing in, and each step seemed heavier than the last. Lily glanced at Roy. His eyes were fixated ahead, an unyielding wall of support. If only she could lend him her worry, could trade her fears for a calm certainty, if just for a moment. Finally, they reached the door marked 203. The nurse hesitated, glancing back at Lily, her expression suggesting she understood the weight of this moment. She pushed the door open, revealing a dimly lit room. Her father lay on the bed, frail and pale, hooked up to machines that beeped and flashed like tiny sentinels. His once robust frame now seemed to sag, and a wave of grief surged through her. The joyful image of the man who had taken her fishing, who had helped her fix her first bike, now felt like a distant memory. Lily stepped forward, holding her breath. "Dad?" she murmured, her voice trembling.
He didn't stir. She took a shaky step closer to the bed, glancing at the way his chest rise and fell, steady yet too faint. "It's me. It's Lily." She slid a hand into his, gripping it tightly. The calluses from years of labor still felt familiar beneath her fingers. Time slipped away, and the room became an echo of their shared moments. Small talks at the breakfast table, his laughter ringing out during family barbecues. This was her father, the hero of her childhood, and now he was lost somewhere behind glassy eyes and silence. Then, as if he sensed her presence, a flicker crossed his face, a slight movement of his eyelids. Just a whisper of a reaction, but her heart leapt. "Dad, can you hear me?" She leaned in, desperate for a spark of recognition. His brow furrowed, and for a second, it felt like the world stopped. "Lily?" The faintest rasp escaped his lips, but it was enough. "Yeah, it's me." The tears spilled over, breaking through the wall she'd been building since the moment she got that call. "I'm here, Dad. I'm here." Roy stepped beside her, his presence a steady anchor. "You got this, Lily," he whispered, and his hand on her shoulder sent warmth through her veins. For the first time since they arrived, Lily could see a flicker of hope around them, something precious amid uncertainty. Even if it wasn't the reunion she'd imagined, it was a chance. The chance to connect, to find a way back to each other. But how would they navigate this new reality? How could they bridge the gap left by years of silence and hurt? Lily squeezed her father's hand tighter, heart racing. "Dad, we'll get through this, together." As those words settled in the air, the door opened and another team of personnel rushed in, their expressions serious. Lily's heart raced again, cold fear gripping her once more. "Miss Collins, we need to talk about your father's treatment plan." Control, strength, and grace, that's what this moment demanded. Would she be able to muster them from within? Would she find the words to make sure he knew he wasn't alone in this fight? Outside the room, the bikers waited, poised in support, ready to back her up. But inside, the struggle felt deeply personal. What was she truly prepared to face? Would she find a way to heal their fractured past? Lily's heart
Sank as the team of doctors and nurses filed in, their movements urgent yet calculated. She couldn't tear her eyes away from her father's solemn face, as if any distraction might shatter the fragile hope they had just glimpsed. She felt Roy's hand tighten on her shoulder, his silent support grounding her amidst the chaos. "Miss Collins," one of the doctors began, his tone clipped but controlled, "we need to assess your father's current condition and discuss options moving forward." He gestured to the equipment that surrounded him, their beeping and flashing becoming an unsettling backdrop to her turmoil. "What options?" Lily's voice cracked, demanding clarity, the words tumbling out in a breathless rush. He's here. He's alive. Isn't that enough?" The doctor met her gaze, and in that moment, she saw not just a professional detached from emotion, but a fellow human grappling with the weight of such heavy news. His brow wrinkled in empathy. "It is, Miss Collins, but recovery from a stroke varies greatly. We need to consider rehabilitation and therapies that can aid in regaining function." Lily felt her insides twist. What if he can't? What if he doesn't want to try? The question tasted bitter on her tongue, thoughts swirling of years lost and words left unspoken. Roy stepped forward, his voice steady yet encouraging. "Every step matters. Just like you said, Lily, he's not alone in this." The gentle reassurance from Roy pushed her forward. Did he make any progress? Can he talk? The need for answers was suffocating. "Right now, we're uncertain of the extent of his capabilities," the doctor replied, appealing to her sense of logic while not ignoring her fragile emotional state. "We'll have a speech therapist evaluate him shortly, but I urge you to talk to him. It may aid in his recovery." Lily nodded, fighting against tears that threatened to spill again. "Can I stay? Just for a little while longer?"
"Of course," the doctor said. "We'll be monitoring from outside. Just call if you need anything." As they filed out, Lily felt the room contract again, the quieter sounds of the machines filling the air like a clock ticking down an unseen countdown. "Hey, Dad," she said softly, forcing the tremor from her voice as she leaned closer. "I'm not going anywhere. We're gonna get through this, I promise." As if her words were a key, his eyes fluttered open again, and something in his gaze flickered. Was it recognition, or merely the vestiges of his awareness? The thought sent a jolt through her, a surge of hope that things could still change. "Try." His voice broke, cracked and fragile, the syllable hanging between them like an unformed thought. "What? Dad, I'm here. Just take your time." "Try harder." The strained words came slowly, each one requiring a Herculean effort. Lily's heart swelled, the warmth of his voice washing over her like a balm. "Yes, that's it. We are going to try every single day," she replied,
squeezing his hand tighter. "You've always been the strongest person I know. I believe in you." He frowned slightly, as if wrestling with something behind his heavy eyelids. Suddenly, a flood of realizations rushed over her. The quiet moments they lost, the conversations that had turned into arguments, the love that lingered despite their distance. Tears pooled as she gripped his hand more firmly. "I'm sorry, Dad, for everything." It was more than a confession. It was a plea, a desperate grasp for connection. Just then, the door swung open again, this time revealing a woman in scrubs who smiled warmly. "Hello, Miss Collins. I'm here to assess your dad's speech and language." Lily's breath caught, hopeful yet apprehensive. "Can he really talk?" "I believe he can," the therapist replied, her eyes sparkling with encouragement. "Let's take it one step at a time." With that, the therapist moved closer, attuning her focus to Lily's father, who turned his gaze toward her, the thrum of possibility hanging in the air. A gentle yet profound moment unfolded, whispering promises of connection and understanding. Could they reclaim their past? Build anew? Lily held her breath, feeling the weight of the moment settle over her like a comforting blanket. She had no idea what the therapy would reveal, but she knew this was just the beginning. Outside the room, the bikers waited, seemingly casual, but filled with energy ready to burst. If only she could lean on their strength too, wielding it like a shield against her fears. What would her father's journey look like, and how could she help him navigate it? As the therapist began her work, Lily couldn't shake the feeling that their next steps would reshape everything. Could reclaim years lost? But was she ready for all that it entailed? Without knowing it, they were on the edge of transformation, but what awaited them might change everything, and Lily's heart raced with trepidation. Would they unlock a door that had long been closed, or would they face yet another hurdle in their fragile reconnection? The night deepened, but for Lily, the journey was just beginning. Lily watched as the speech therapist settled into a rhythm, her voice soft yet firm. "All right, Mr. Collins, can you tell me your name?" There was a moment of stillness, punctuated only by the steady beeping of the machines. Her father's brow furrowed, his lips moving slightly, as if trying to find the words buried deep within him. "Dad," he managed, his voice weak but audible, and it felt like the world momentarily shifted on its axis. Lily's heart raced. "Yes, that's it, Dad. You're doing so well." She could feel hope unfurling in the pit of her stomach. His gaze flickered to her, a bit uncertain, yet glimmering with a mix of determination. "Lily," a choked gasp escaped her. This was more than she had dared to dream. "You remembered my name!" The tears she had fought so hard to keep at bay now spilled freely. There were tears of relief, joy, and something profound, something raw that felt years in the making. "Keep going," the therapist encouraged, her smile unwavering. "Let's try a sentence. Can you say, 'I love you, Lily'?" Her father closed his eyes, seemingly gathering strength. For a moment, it seemed like he might falter, but then he opened his mouth. "I
love you, Lily, he uttered, each word requiring every ounce of effort he had. The moment hung heavy in the air, a blanket of warmth spreading through the room. Lily felt like she was floating. "I love you too, Dad, so much!" The joy felt overwhelming, a stark contrast to the agony of the day before. In that moment, time stretched as she let his words wash over her. He was still there. Their connection hadn't broken, even through the dark clouds of illness. "Fantastic! Let's keep practicing that," the therapist urged. The session continued like this. Laughter, determination, occasional frustration, but they made progress with every word. Each hesitant syllable opened a path back to one another. When they finally finished, the sun had set fully outside, casting shadows that danced upon the walls. "You did amazing, Dad!" Lily leaned forward, her face shining with pride. He smiled weakly, and for the first time, she saw a flicker of the old him. There was warmth behind his eyes, a spark she had feared was extinguished. "Tried hard, didn't I?" "Yes," she laughed through her tears. "And I don't care how long it takes. We're in this together." Just then, Roy peeked around the door, his face lighting up when he saw the progress they'd made. "How's it going in here?" "Better than I ever imagined," she said with a grin, unable to contain her happiness. The relief on Roy's face mirrored her own and deepened the bond they shared. "That's great to hear. I have a surprise for you." "What kind of surprise?" Lily's curiosity piqued. "You'll want to come see for yourself," he said, stepping aside to reveal a number of bikers, friends of his from the community, filing in with helmets under one arm and a spread of snacks in the other. Lily stood utterly taken aback. "What are you all doing here?" "We heard about your dad," one of the bikers, a bearded man with a friendly grin, said. "Thought we could lift some spirits, maybe get a little party started." Their enthusiasm filled the room, bringing with it an infectious energy. Lily felt her heart swell again. "This is incredible! Thank you all so much!" As laughter and joy filled the space, she realized that their little family, a father learning to speak, a devoted boyfriend, and an unexpected band of friends, was slowly becoming a community, circling in support. Could this connection lead her father not only to recovery, but to the bond that had faded over the years? The chaotic warmth of laughter surrounded them, filling the void with friendship and camaraderie. But in the back of her,
What if their shared moments weren't just a one-time thing? What transformations lay ahead in this unexpected journey? The night was just beginning, but Lily sensed, as they gathered to celebrate, something deeper was waiting to be uncovered. The laughter spilled into the hallway, a blend of voices and the crinkling of snack wrappers. Lily felt her chest tighten in disbelief. It was a small celebration, yet it felt monumental. Friends of Roy's, the free-spirited bikers, had transformed the sterile hospital room into a realm of warmth that felt alive. "All right, everyone, let's make some noise for Mr. Collins," the bearded biker shouted, clapping his hands to get everyone's attention. Cheers erupted, filling the space like sunshine bursting through dark clouds. Lily's heart swelled as she squeezed her father's hand. He looked at the jubilant crowd, bewildered but somehow intrigued, as if the years of struggle had created a mist he could finally see through. "Vroom vroom," called another biker, revving an imaginary motorcycle, causing Lily to chuckle. It was a lightness they hadn't felt in ages, one that made the heavy days of the past seem a little less suffocating. "Here, Mr. Collins, we got some snacks," a woman yelled from the back, passing over a plate of cookies. "They're from the best bakery in town. You'll love 'em." Lily watched as her father's eyes widened with curiosity, a silent willingness to engage bubbling up within him. With trembling fingers, he reached for a cookie, and when he took a bite, it was as if a switch flipped. His eyes lit up, and he nodded appreciatively. "Good," he mumbled, the words halting but genuine. "See?" Lily whispered, glancing toward the therapist who had stayed to witness this moment. "He's coming back to us." Gradually, the laughter turned into a softer camaraderie, as stories emerged about Roy's wild early years and the wild rides they shared. Lily leaned in, soaking up every word, her father's occasional chuckle weaving in and out, breaking the tension that had long held him captive.
But as the evening wore on, an unspoken heaviness crept in, a familiar shadow that reminded her of how fragile this all was. Her heart ached with the thought that this moment, no matter how joyful, was still sitting atop the chasm of uncertainty they faced. Suddenly, Roy approached her, looking serious yet gentle. "Hey, do you think your dad might enjoy seeing a few pictures from happier times? I have my phone with a bunch of them." Lily nodded vigorously, hope flickering bright. They could gather everyone around, and she could point out the stories behind each memory, showcasing a version of her father that lived beyond the walls of this hospital. "Dad, do you want to see some old pictures?" she asked, leaning closer, excited to engage him in something new. "Sure, show me," he replied, a mix of fatigue and eagerness in his voice. As they gathered around the phone, the images flashed by. Trips to Monaco,
The beach, birthday parties filled with laughter, moments that encapsulated who they were as a family. With each photo, Lily shared stories and jokes, watching her father's face illuminate with recognition, a time when illness hadn't cast shadows over their lives. "Remember the treehouse?" she asked, holding up a picture of her and her dad, beaming proud. "You built that just for me!" Her father's face split into a wide grin, memories flooding back as if he were catching glimpses of a life he thought he'd lost. "Climbed it, with you," he stammered, the effort still raw, but filled with determination. Lily's heart fluttered with excitement. "Yes, and we had that epic water balloon fight. Wait, I remember, water everywhere." The room turned into a cacophony of laughter and playful murmurs, with the bikers chiming in on the adventures they heard about through their stories. Just like that, the evening became more than a celebration. It became a bridge across the chasm of fear and uncertainty. But just as Lily felt the weight of happiness envelop her like a comforting hug, her phone buzzed, pulling her back into reality. The text was from her mother, reminding her of tomorrow's visit with the specialist. The cheer faded just a little as she realized that beneath these moments of joy lay the reality of what was to come. How would they navigate the road ahead? With her heart still racing from the memories, she looked at her father and felt a trembling uncertainty tick in her gut. Could this newfound connection hold up against the hardest challenges yet to come? As the festivities continued, a sliver of doubt crept in, whispering a question. What truths lay waiting to be discovered tomorrow, and would they be strong enough to face them all together? The murmurs of laughter began to settle into a comfortable hum as the bikers recounted their own memories, each story filling the room with warmth. Lily's father sat at the center of the circle, a soft smile settling on his face as he absorbed the joy around him. It lifted a weight from Lily's shoulders, a weight she had carried for so long, filled with worry and fear. But as the clock edged towards the late hour, Lily felt the weight of reality creeping back in. The text from her mother, a reminder of the upcoming visit with the specialist, lingered in her mind like an unwelcome guest. She had wanted this night to be perfect, but the uncertainty of tomorrow loomed like a dark cloud. "Can I get everyone's attention?" Roy called out, raising his hand like a traffic cop. The noise fell away, and the room fell silent. "I'd like to say a few words." He turned towards Lily's father, the corners of his mouth quirking upward. "We are here tonight to celebrate not just your fight, but the man you are, to remind you that you are never alone in this battle." There was a ripple of agreement.
Heads nodding all around. Lily's heart soared a little more with each affirmation. Tomorrow may be a day filled with challenges, but look at this group around you. We've got your back, regardless of what life throws your way, Roy continued. The bikers raised their hands in solidarity, and Lily felt her pulse quicken again, a heartbeat of hope. "See, Dad?" she whispered, not wanting to disturb yet desperate to share. "You're part of this family too. You're never really alone." Her father's expression shifted, a flicker of vulnerability in his eyes. It struck her how desperately he needed these moments of connection. "Let's make a plan," Roy said, breaking the intensity in the air. "Tomorrow, once you get through that appointment, we should all meet up at the diner. We'll gather a little post-specialist celebration, just like tonight." Lily beamed at her father, hoping he would agree.
"What do you think, Dad?" He looked around the room, still caught in the grasp of shared memories and laughter. "Yeah, sounded nice," he murmured, surprising them all. Cheers erupted again, rekindling the warmth in Lily's chest. As the night wound down, voices softened and laughter ebbed. A collective fatigue settled over them as her father leaned back against the pillows, his eyes slowly drooping. The bikers began to drift away, giving half hugs and gentle clasps on his shoulder. "I'll see you tomorrow, Mr. Collins," one of them called, as the last of them stepped outside. Once they were alone again, the room felt quieter, yet somehow more alive than before. Lily sat on the edge of her father's bed. "We'll figure it all out, won't we?" she asked, her heart fluttering with the possibility of what lay ahead. "Yeah, I think we can," he replied, his voice still thick with sleepiness and emotion. Still, doubt lingered at the edges, spiraling into her thoughts. Would he remember these moments when the challenges from tomorrow came knocking? As she leaned down to kiss his forehead, she whispered, "I believe in you." "Believe in us," he corrected, his eyes just beginning to close. Lily smiled, a flicker of warmth igniting her worries for just a moment. Then, gathering her thoughts, she pulled out her phone again, a text hanging onto her mind. Maybe she could talk to her mother. Maybe they could all face the challenges together. But then another message blinked onto the screen, sending a jolt through her chest. It was a video, a file marked Family Memories. Without thinking, she opened it, her heart racing. Could this hold something that changed everything? What would it reveal about their past, and what they'd have to face next? Lily's heart quickened as she tapped on the video, the screen flickering to life with familiar faces and the gentle hum of laughter. It was a montage of memories, her childhood flooding back like a vivid dream. Birthday parties with colorful balloons, family barbecues with smoke curling up toward the sky, and the joyful chaos of holidays past. Each frame felt like a balm, soothing the raw edges of her heart. "Whoa, look at you!" her father exclaimed, his voice suddenly vibrant with recognition. It was the first time since their reunion that she'd seen him so animated. "You had that silly dress on when you blew out the candles." Tears welled up in her eyes. "Yeah, it was my favorite." A small laugh bubbled up, fueled by nostalgia. The warmth surrounding them felt like a cozy blanket, wrapping around both their hearts. The video continued, each snippet a reminder of love that transcended the barriers built over years of silence. As the moments unfolded before her, she felt the heaviness of resentment and regret beginning to lift. If they could remember joy, if they could rekindle those feelings, maybe hope wasn't just an illusion. Suddenly, the screen froze on a moment. Lily's father lifting her onto his shoulders at a carnival, her tiny arms raised high in triumph, the sun shining brightly behind them. That image pulled at a heartstring so deep it resonated through the hallway, painting the air with hope. A thought struck her. What if laughter and love could serve as a bridge to the future? "Dad," she exclaimed, "we can bring this back. You remember what it felt like to have fun, right?" He nodded slowly, the light in his eyes sparking with growing clarity. "Those days were the best." A deep sense of commitment washed over her. Tomorrow wouldn't just be about the appointment, it would signify a fresh start. She reached for her father's hand, wrapping her fingers around his. "This isn't the end. We'll create new memories, just like those. You have a whole community backing you up now." Time slipped away in the quiet warmth of their embrace. There was a sense of belonging, a promise hung in the air that gripped them both tightly. Lily could almost hear the hum of the diner in her ears, the lively chatter and sound of clinking plates. "Let's do it," she said, the determination swelling within her voice. "Let's plan for the gathering tomorrow. Everyone's waiting to celebrate you." "All right, we will." Hours later, after the hospital lights dimmed and the hush of night settled in, Lily rested her head on her father's shoulder, feeling the exhaustion of the day wash over her. She fell asleep to the soft rhythm of the machine surrounding them, the sound of life, hope, and renewal. The dawn broke, spilling light across the hospital room, filling her dreams with optimism. Today was the day they would take that next step. The bustling cafe of the Busy Bee Diner awaited, the bikers preparing for celebration. As she woke, a new determination coursed through her veins, and she knew she was ready to face whatever challenges lay ahead, believing not just in herself, but in the power of family, community, and resilience. When they finally walked out of the hospital together, the
air felt different. It was crisp, fresh, charged with possibility. Standing outside, she spotted the line of motorcycles ready to escort them back to their new beginning. Roy was there, beaming with pride, just like the rest of them. "Together," she said softly to her father. "Together," he echoed. As the first motorcycle revved its engine, a rumble began to spread through the air like wildfire. Around them, bikers cheered, and her heart soared higher than it had in ages. This was their journey, a ride toward the horizon, where the past met with hope for the future. As the parade surged forward, she glanced at her father, and they shared a look that said it all. It was a promise of healing, growth, and above all, love. No matter what challenges lay ahead, they would face them side by side, riding through life one day at a time. Today marked the beginning. Would their journey be easy? No, but as long as they had each other, they could overcome anything. And as the roaring engines echoed down the familiar streets of their small town, she felt the winds of change pulling them forward, together. Now, this is your moment. If this story touched your heart, you need to subscribe immediately to the channel. Don't wait a second longer. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and ensure more inspiring stories come your way. Share your thoughts in the comments about this journey of resilience, and share this video with at least 5 friends who need to experience this transformation. Only true fans understand the importance of supporting the channel through these actions. Let's keep the love and community alive.